All right, guys. Welcome to the actual last episode of Higurashi When They Cry. Man, I'm gonna clear my throat real quick. One sec. It has been quite the journey that we've been on together. I'm super excited to get into this last chapter with you guys. This is probably gonna be a long one. So before we do anything, go ahead and grab some snacks, grab a drink, get yourself comfortable, and yeah, let's get right into it. We left off at chapter 11. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm really thinking about getting I'm sorry if you hear my chair squeak. I'm thinking about getting the other chapters too. Like this is like chapter 1 per se, Onikakushi, and I've been thinking about low-key getting the other chapters. If this last episode does well and if you guys want to see more of it, then yeah, I'll buy the next chapter. I'm gonna jump cut real quick. All right, are we ready? Are we ready? Let's get it. Let's get into it. All right, continue. I guess I'd be lying if I said I didn't get any sleep. I tried to stay awake all night, but there were definitely gaps in my memory. I guess I kept nodding off and jerking awake in a panic all night. I spent all night hugging that metal bat and sat on the top of the futon I used to barricade my door, waiting, waiting, watching, just in case someone tried to break in through my window. I'm gonna clear my throat. If I left this spot, someone would break through the door, setting the futon flying, and attack me. But if I stopped watching the window, someone would break through the glass and attack me. I tried telling myself I was just being paranoid, but I couldn't sleep. The thought of being so vulnerable scared the living daylights out of me. If sleep meant taking that risk, I didn't need it. It was so much better to just stay awake. At some point during that endless cycle of nodding off and jolting awake, light began to shine outside. But that was it. It wasn't so much the morning as it was just the sun simply having risen. I snuck a peek out through the curtains. Raina was gone. I couldn't see her anywhere, no matter how hard I looked. Finally, I could breathe a deep sigh of relief. The night was finally over. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired, but I didn't feel like sleeping at the moment. I still had time, but I needed to make my own breakfast, so I'd better get started soon. Skipping school was also an option. With my mom gone, it'd be easy to play hooky. Honestly, I debated it. The risk involved in leaving my house was incalculable. So staying holed up in here was probably my safest option. But staying here wouldn't solve anything. Oishi-san wouldn't help me without cold, hard evidence. Neither he nor my parents. So unless I found some sort of proof, these relentless nights would never end. I stretched my body, tilted my head back, and closed my eyes just like I did every morning. Excuse me. I regulated my breathing and regained my senses. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Let's go to school. Let's wait until they set their trap for me. But that didn't mean I was just going to twiddle my thumbs. I needed to avoid that trap and secure irrefutable evidence. Take note of the plates of any car that drives by. If I see someone suspicious, check their clothes and face. I wasn't just protecting myself, I was preparing myself to turn their attack against them and retaliate. The tension was similar to when two samurai were both aiming to slay each other with a single motion as they drew their katanas. I was not at a disadvantage. I would have a chance to retaliate. I finally felt a bit of courage growing in my chest. All right, let's go to school. I tightened my grip on Satoshi's back. He was the only partner I could count on. Satoshi, please lend me your strength, and entrust your dying regrets to me, since you were probably murdered. I'll make sure I dispel them. With renewed resolve, I checked the clock. It was still early. Of course, I was going to school by myself today. If I didn't want to run, ugh, if I didn't want to run into Reina or Mion, I needed to leave now. The shattered fragments of the cupboard were still strewn all over the entryway. Right. I meant to clean that up last night, but never got around to it with the phone call and everything. If my parents came back and saw this while I was at school, I would never hear the end of it. Still, I'd be wasting time if I cleaned it up right now. And considering what would happen if I ran into Reina or Mion, it wouldn't be too late to clean it up after I got back home. Making extra certain that the doors were locked, I left the house. My uniform was still covered in mud from yesterday, so I left it in the washer. Today I was going to school in a tracksuit. By wearing a different outfit this morning, my mind was forced to accept that today was different from yesterday. I had a hunch. Today might be the day I get killed. Keep your guard up, Keiichi Maibara. The only one who gets to decide if today is my last is me. Excuse me. Look at these pretty scenes. I spent the morning practicing my swing like it was my natural routine. After a while, Rena arrived at school. Our eyes met, but we said nothing. Rena said nothing about last night, as if it never happened. But I could see that those events were real by the wounds carved into her fingers. I just heard her telling Satoko and the others that the bandages were from hurting herself in the kitchen, though it wasn't like it bothered me. The details that Oishi-san shared about Reina's incident before her transfer played vividly in my mind. I'm gonna clear my throat. Not that I knew about it. I couldn't even dream of Reina as a cute, ideal girl. Or now that I knew about it. Kei-chan, I see you're still aiming for the nationals. It was Mion. I had already sensed her approach, so I wasn't that surprised. Oh, Mion, if you understand, then leave me alone. I'm busy practicing. I gave her a curt reply without my usual jokes. Then I gave the bat an even larger swing, tactfully keeping Mion from getting any closer. Hey, Kei-chan, take it easy. I think Mion got the message, but she still urged me to give it a rest. Homeroom's not that far off, is it? Just let me finish practicing. I swung the bat even harder as a sign of my refusal. Kei-chan, when did you get into baseball? Just recently. Recently? You mean yesterday? Don't ask if you already know. Oh dear. That's a very unsportsmanlike reply. You're distracting me. Go away. I ignored Mion and kept swinging. Normally she'd get mad or bored and leave if someone gave her the cold shoulder like this. But Mion just stood there, waiting patiently for me to stop swinging. I didn't sense any hostility, but we were at school, in plain view. I doubt she'd suddenly attack me here. Or was that too naive? Still, I was starting to get tired. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to take a break and heave her out, or hear her out. You need something from me, or need me for something, right? What is it? Sweat poured from me as I stopped swinging. 1 second. Excuse me. I noticed my shoulders were heaving as I breathed. I cursed my lack of exercise. At this rate, I might not be able to move as needed when the time came. I'm gonna clear my throat. Hold on, I'm gonna check something on my thing. Sweet. I'm going to stand here. Alright. At this rate, I might not be able to move as needed when the time came. I should probably keep practicing my swings to build stamina in addition to the excuse for carrying the bat around with me. Gonna clear my throat again? Well, it's nothing important. If you're tired, I can ask again later. Now is fine. I'm only dealing with you right now because I judge this situation to be safe. Talking to you alone and away from the others? That's out of the question. Well, Mion was uncharacteristically trying to choose her words. But unlike Oishi-san, it didn't look like she was going to talk about something I'd rather not hear. Mion was puzzled, trying to find the right thing to say. But then she gave a hearty laugh to break herself out of that mire. Ah, this old man's just no good at this stuff. Having poor vocabulary hurts. What's this all of a sudden? If you have something to say, just say it. Stop it. Stop that swinging. She cut straight to the point. Her request was so frank, I didn't understand it for a moment. I had already stopped swinging to listen to her, hadn't I? I just stopped, didn't I? That's not what I meant. I want today to be the last day you swing that bat. I'm sorry. It took me some time to understand what she was asking for. What's wrong with swinging a bat? Why? It's none of your business, is it? I'm not bothering anyone, am I? You are. Mion said it flat out. This didn't make any sense, and that was really irritating. When did I bother anybody? Uh, um, Mion was at a loss for words, but she finally made up her mind and spoke, though she stuttered as she said it. Because, Kei-chan, that's someone else's bat. You shouldn't borrow it without permission. It was left behind by a student who transferred, right? I'm just borrowing it until he comes back for it. Huh? Yeah. He transferred. Mion grew uncharacteristically flustered. That made it all too clear that his transfer was a lie. But strange, isn't it? For the older brother to transfer by himself, while his little sister stayed behind? Mion couldn't hide her reaction, as my words shook her up. Kei-chan, you knew? Satoshi Hojo, Satogo's older brother, right? The one demoned away last year. Unable to respond to that, Mion fell silent. Reina asked the same thing. Why did you start swinging that bat? She told me Satoshi did the same thing, practicing his swings, right before he went missing. So, is this some kind of omen for Oyashiro-sama's curse? Gotta clear my throat. Shish! Mion panicked and looked around. Please, Kei-chan, don't mention Oyashiro-sama so recklessly. I don't believe in him, but the others very much do. Reina especially. Dangerously so? Anyway, you're scaring everyone. If you're just fooling around, then stop it. You have to stop acting like Satoshi. I was the one who was scared. Why do I have to thank for taking up who do I have to thank for taking up this bet in the first place? But it still unsettled me, knowing that my actions were overlapping with Satoshi's. It would be one thing if someone suggested it, but I thought I was making my own decisions. I'll say this now. I don't know anything about Satoshi. After all, you didn't tell me anything about him. We didn't mean to hide it. You were hiding the incidents that happen every year, weren't you? That's because we didn't want to, You didn't want to scare me? That's your reason for leaving me out? No, we didn't mean to. Mion, I asked you directly if something happened at the dam, didn't I? And you told me nothing happened. When someone was dismembered and murdered, you lied to me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lie to you. Friends don't hide things from each other, right? Isn't that right? That you all are my friends. Kei-chan, Mion looked helpless and flustered. Was I imagining the tears in her eyes? I never could have imagined Mion acting like this. Oh, by the way, those get well mochi you brought the other day. They were good. I thought I was going to bleed. Who did it? You or Reina? Me. She admitted it so easily. I couldn't help but be surprised at how easy that was. You could have killed me. How could you do that to a friend? But it was just a little prank. Mion gave me a wry smile mixed with confusion, causing even more anger to well up inside me. You think that was a prank? I grabbed Mion by the collar and lifted her up. That wasn't the same as putting Tabasco sauce on a piece of mochi. It was a needle, a sewing needle. If I had swallowed that, and it lodged in my throat, what should you think would happen? Mion's face froze as her body rattled in fear. This wasn't the Mion Sonozaki I knew anymore. Anyways, you're not my friend. There's no reason for me to listen to someone who's not my friend. So just leave me alone for a while. Got it? My mom texted me. Hold on. Jump cut! Alright guys, I'm back. Sorry, my mom sent me a funny video of our dog. Mion wasn't replying anymore. It won't be that easy to erase me, you know. The cops have been onto you from the start. So don't think you can make me disappear like you did Satoshi. I said it clearly. This was my declaration of war. I think you guys are suspects in the previous incidents too. I also know you spent a lot of time with the cops ever since the anti-dam movement. Don't think you can hide it from me. Got that? How did you know? Mion stood there with a dumbstruck look on her face. That was when I heard the principal ringing the bell for school. It was time for morning homeroom. Let's go. The class representative needs to be there, right? At that moment, for the first time, I realized Mion was sobbing as tears ran down her cheeks. You're so mean, Kei-chan. I wanted to console her, but I shut my mouth. I had no need to feel guilty. I'm going. Don't be late for homeroom. Homeroom. I left Mion, still shaking, as I turned around to head for the entrance. I had no idea how troubling it was to make a girl cry. Behind my back, I could hear her muttering. It was a faint mutter as she was speaking to herself. So that's how it is. Huh? She wasn't saying it to anyone. It was Mion talking to herself. But it was a sobbing voice that had that kind of giddy, cursing tone. I inadvertently stopped and turned back towards her. So it was that bastard. He leaked it all to Kei-chan. She balled up her fists as tears continued to rain down. She glared at a spot in the ground with a terrifying yet smiling face, cursing. 1 second. Excuse me. A chill ran down my spine from that demonic expression. This transformation, Mion's transformation, was different from Reina's. I should have killed him back then. He forgot the mercy I showed him just because he was going to retire this year. Retiring this year? Was she talking about Oishi-san? Damn it. Damn it. I'm going to kill that damn old man. It felt like the air itself had begun distorting. With Mion at the center, the world had begun to twist and spiral, bending, whirling. This was the first time I'd known, no, experienced such a visage. Rise! Attention! Mion made up an excuse for her red eyes by saying there was something wrong with their contacts. After that, neither Reina nor Mion spoke to me for the rest of the day. Neither Satoko nor Rika-chan looked me in the eye. Strangely, I didn't feel hurt. Everything had just went back to the way it was. The months since I transferred in had been almost too much fun. That was all. School was supposed to be something like this to begin with. I should have disliked that feeling, but today, it felt oddly refreshing. Excuse me. Give me 1 second, guys. Excuse me. The bell rung, sounding the end of the monotonous, monotonous, whatever, school day, which had felt so tense yet so dull. Since it would cause a lot of unpleasant memories if they asked me to join into the club activities, I promptly started preparing to go home without even looking at them. I stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag, wrapped my hand around Satoshi's now familiar bat, and began heading towards the entrance. I was assailed by both the exhausting relief that nothing had happened today and the tiring possibility of the same thing repeating tomorrow. But deep down inside me, far beneath, in the recesses of my heart, I achingly knew this would be the last day of this cycle. I couldn't tell how the ending would be, whether it would end as I wished it to end, or if it would end as I hoped it wouldn't. Regardless, in my current state, there was something more important than how things would end. There was something else I wanted to know. Why did I have to be killed? How did it come to this? Why? For what purpose? The sunlight was relentless. The sun, the heat, even the air. They wouldn't give me my answers. Or could it be that the cries of the Higurashi were desperately trying to tell me something? Somewhere, mixed in with their shrieks, Tomotaki-san and Satoshi were also probably trying to tell me something. I simply haven't been able to realize it yet. When I do realize it, I wonder if I will be amongst the Higurashi fruitlessly crying to the next victim. Glancing down at my feet, I saw a Higurashi on its back, spasming weakly. There was still much of the summer left, yet this one was already chirping its last song. I couldn't tell what it was saying, no matter how hard I listened, but I had to try. I had to try to listen to what it desperately was trying to tell me. At that moment, the shrills of the Higurashi ceased all at once, as if they had huddled together, fearing that the person who'd brought them to their dreadful fate had arrived. There was no mistaking it. The presence was approaching. The found footsteps was almost non-existent. If the Higurashi hadn't warned me by ending their chirping, I wouldn't have noticed. My exhaustion left me in a heartbeat. In its place was a rush of adrenaline that sharpened all my senses. I was just barely able to hold back that creeping, suffocating feeling of horror. It wasn't something I could hold back for long, but in this moment, I needed to be razor sharp. I was able to maintain my composure. I wasn't going to shout like I did yesterday. I hid myself calmly amongst the trees, waiting for my pursuer's shadow. Could I get them to pass by me? No. Since I was able to hear their footsteps, they were also probably going to get them to... Oh my goodness. They were probably also able to hear mine. They might have already been able to tell that I'd hidden myself and was holding my breath. The person tailing me, was it Reina, just like yesterday? If it was Reina, I wouldn't hold back. I could just yell at her and make her go ahead like yesterday. If it wasn't Reina, it would depend on how they acted, I guess. The footsteps ambled closer. I swallowed, wiped my clammy hands on my pants, and readjusted the grip on the bat. I could tell that the fear I had beaten back once was now waiting for the opening to come back at me. Who could it be? I peeked out from behind the tree at the person following me. My imagination hadn't led me astray. It was Reina. There was a bit of relief as I realized it was someone I knew, but that feeling left me in an instant. This wasn't the same Reina that I knew. Her eyes were dark and lifeless, but her mouth appears as if it was carved into a crescent. Yes, it looked like she was just grinning slightly, and in her right hand was an axe. I hid myself behind the tree once again, and recalled the unbelievable sight I just saw. What was that just now? The embodiment of terror laid bare. Baseball, practicing my swing. There were tons of excuses for me to be carrying a bat. But for that axe? There was no excuse for that. An axe? Just like that? Ch.1, are you playing hide and seek, I wonder? My heart was pounding, hard enough that I had trouble breathing. What little composure I had been able to hold on to now was crushed. In its place, cold sweat gushed forth, covering my entire body, letting me know precisely what kind of emotion had taken hold. Not good, not good, not good. I wasn't able to hide myself completely. She already knew I was here. Were you trying to scare me, I wonder? I decided that it would be better to reveal myself now, since there was still space between us, than to allow Reina to come any closer. I adjusted my grip on the bat again, readied myself mentally, and stepped out from behind the tree. Ha 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 ha, I found you, Ch.1. Reina was pleased that she had found me, eliciting a mysterious giggle. Her mouth was smiling, but her eyes told me she was displeased by the fact that I had been hiding. Those eyes, they were just so empty. My legs began to quiver. Ugh, not good. In the pit of my stomach, some sort of vicious, hot and cold substance began spreading around. If I allowed it, that substance would slip to my bloodstream and undoubtedly freeze all the organs of my body. Not good, not good. I'll be devoured by Reina at this rate. Strike back! Don't lose! What is it? I blustered, hiding behind my bravado. But Reina didn't flinch one bit. Sorry if you could hear me hit my desk. Just the same as Ch.1. I'm heading home. Then what about that axe? Then what about that bat you're holding? I'm practicing my swing. Then I'm treasure hunting. Reina gave a flippant explanation as to why she had such a fearsome weapon. Treasure hunting? At the treasure mountain near the dam site, I found a new cute thing, so I needed this to dig it out. How could I believe that? You wouldn't believe it, would you? Ha 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 ha. Pretend I said that really menacingly. Reina's laugh was obviously very strange. I'd seen Reina's transformation many times before, but the one today was completely different. Like her mischievous tone and the shrewd glint in her eyes. It wasn't something that roundabout. I'm not sure what to say. It was just so obvious. I'm gonna clear my throat. Wait, Ch.1. Ha 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 ha. Reina didn't stop walking, even as she let out that eerie laugh. Whenever Reina got close to me, I would scurry away and turn back towards her. This cycle repeated over and over. No matter how you looked at it, I was being chased by Reina and was trying to escape. Don't follow me! I can't do that. My house is this way after all. When I met with Reina on this road yesterday, she cowered and trembled as she followed my commands. But today was different. Gonna clear my throat. Reina didn't show a hint of trepidation. Actually, wasn't I the one who was cowering? If the way home for Reina and me was the same, that's fine. I'd just change my route. That'd work out, wouldn't it? I turned onto a side street I'd never been down and knew little about. Excuse me. But Reina saw me do that and followed me while laughing. Why? Why? Aren't you going home? Then just go home down the street you normally do. Why? Why would you follow me down this weird little side road? Those thoughts screamed into my head, eventually spilling out of my mouth. Why are you following me? The tone of my voice was already tinged with terror. Excuse me. Because I want to talk to Keiichi-kun. Keiichi-kun wants to talk to Reina too, doesn't he? I don't want to talk about anything with you. That's a lie, isn't it? There's something you want to ask me about, isn't there? Not at all. I have nothing to talk to you about. That's a lie, isn't it? It's not a lie. Lies! Reina's scream echoed, startling some nearby birds into flight. I cringed in fear. The only other thing I could do was increase my pace. Let's talk, Keiichi-kun. Talk. Ha 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 ha. Why was I running down this unfamiliar and deserted street? Doesn't Keiichi-kun have something he's worried about? Nothing at all. I'm not worried about anything. Lies! Ha 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 ha. Even though I was running, even though Reina was walking, why wasn't I getting any farther away? I know, I really do. You're scared, aren't you, Keiichi-kun? I'm not scared. I'm not scared of anything. Lies! My breathing grew heavy, and it felt like my legs were giving out from beneath me. Reina wasn't even breaking a sweat. I'll listen. This time I'll listen. I had no idea what she was talking about. Oh, wait. I had no idea what she was talking about or what exactly she wanted to do. This time I'll listen. It will be different from the time with Satoshi-kun. When she said Satoshi's name, I turned back for a moment. But even as I did that, Reina was still advancing. I couldn't afford to stop. Satoshi-kun was worried too. It looked like he was having such a hard time. But I didn't listen. I was so sad. Where did this street connect to? All these twists and turns, ups and downs. It was hard to believe that this was even remotely in the direction towards my house. My sense of direction had long since gone out the window. I really regretted it when Satoshi-kun transferred out. I thought that if I had listened, he may not have transferred out. I really regretted that. Excuse me. The road led me deeper into the forest. I'm going to pause for a second. Alright. The road led me deeper into the forest. Wasn't I getting farther away from the village the more I ran? I lost more and more of my composure the more I thought about it. But despite this realization, my inner self was still disturbingly calm. So you see, I vowed. I vowed that there was ever someone struggling like Satoshi-kun did, I'd save them. I don't want to see anyone transfer out again. Damn it! What does transfer even mean? I won't let you transfer me. I won't end up the same as Satoshi. Come on, Keiichi-kun. Talk to me. I'll be able to understand you, Keiichi-kun. I'm your ally. I started wheezing, out of breath. My lungs were so hot that they felt like they were going to explode, and my heart was beating as hard as it possibly could. I should have practiced running instead of my swing. I couldn't even afford to scoff at that stupid thought. If Keiichi-kun doesn't have anything to worry about, he'll go back to normal. Everyone will be back to being friends and we can enjoy club activities again. Next time we'll team up and beat Michan. Yeah, how much fun that would be. Reina couldn't even imagine how much I wished I could turn back the clock on these past few days. You could be nice to me again too. I want to go searching for treasure again. This time I'll prepare a nice lunch. Actually, we could just go right now. Let's go up to the dam site together. I'll show you the cute thing I just found. I'm sure you'll like it too. My footsteps made pathetic flapping sounds as my legs wobbled and faltered. Hot on my heels, Reina's steps were sharply breaking twigs underfoot. Excuse me. I had to accept it. I was on the run, being chased by Reina. If she caught me, it was all over. I realized it instinctively. I couldn't even begin to think of what the end would entail. Just that if I was caught, it was all over. That's all I knew. It didn't matter how it was going to end. I wouldn't let it end. Not without knowing anything. Not yet. That momentary lapse was all it took. Of all the things that could have happened, My knees buckled underneath me and I crumbled towards the ground. I tried to stand frantically, urging my legs to respond. I used my bat as a makeshift cane to prop myself up, but Reina was already standing right in front of me. Compared to me, out of breath and utterly exhausted, Reina was so cool and composed that she could have froze the air around her. She wasn't even breathing hard at all. Rather, I couldn't even sense if her heart was beating. I'm going to do something real quick. All right. Are you afraid of something, I wonder? It's not like you to tremble, Ch.1. Her expression looked almost affectionate. Those soulless eyes, that mask of affection. Excuse me. As she admonished me for trembling, Reina's hands deftly slipped over her head. The blur of arms as they moved had made me feel as if I was staring at the godliness of the thousand-armed Buddha. Then, as both of her hands met above her head, that axe she held came into focus. I stared up at it in disbelief. It was all I could do. Tell me, what happened to Satoshi? Reina stayed like that, her axe raised above her head, and solemnly opened her mouth. It was as if she was expressing a farewell to a friend she was never to see again. That cruel... Oh, wait, shit. That cruel scenario resided somewhere in her actions. I told you, Satoshi-kun. Transferred. Out. Enough of that transfer crap. Oh, shoot. It means demoned away, doesn't it? Doesn't it? You can tell me now, can't you? Who made Satoshi disappear? Was it you? Mion? Or someone in the village? Answer me! I became frantic the more I screamed, but Reina did nothing but maintain the smile frozen on her face. I have no idea what Ch.1 is talking about. Then I'll say it in a way so you do. Who was the perpetrator of this chain... Oh my gosh. This chain of mysterious deaths? You seem to be confused, Ch.1. What? There is no human perpetrator. Everything is by Oyashiro-sama's will. Isn't Oyashiro-sama's curse just superstition? You believe in that too? It's not about believing or not. Oyashiro-sama exists. Period. Reina's gaze grew even more galid. The ferocity of her stare was so intense, not allowing me to question anything. There's just no way that something like Oyashiro-sama could exist. I'm going to put my hoodie over my shoulders because I'm getting a little chilly. You don't believe in Oyashiro-sama? There's no way I could believe it. There's no way it could exist. It exists. Oyashiro-sama exists. Ch.1 should have felt it personally. I never felt something like that. Ch.1, haven't you felt someone apologizing to you before? Constantly on top of that? All noise from the outside world disappeared. Only Reina's voice resounded, loudly and terribly. You see, until you forgive them, they'll always be with you. At school, at home, at your bedside. I couldn't understand what Reina was saying. It came to me too. Oyashiro-sama did. That's why I transferred and came back to Hinamizawa. I don't understand. I don't understand. What does transfer even mean? What was Reina saying? Hasn't Oyashiro-sama come to you as well, Ch.1? I'm probably the only one you can confide in. I won't let you transfer out, okay? I'm getting lightheaded from talking. Ha 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 ha. Reina's demented laughter clanged around inside my head. Was Reina saying Oyashiro-sama came to her as well? That's right. Last night I had heard about that when I asked Reina. Please keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? Oishi-san began speaking. Neither the victims nor the school filed a complaint, so there's no preliminary report. Basically, the police hadn't intervened in this matter. So all these details are just what I heard from those involved, meaning it's not that credible. You said there were victims. Didn't Reina just break all the windows? No. Reina Ryugu had attacked 3 boys, using a metal bat. 2 of them made it out with only bruises. The other had been injured so badly that one of his eyes was permanently damaged. Wouldn't it be considered assault? Shouldn't the police have arrested her? For whatever reason, the victim never pressed charges. There was no report to the police, so they were beaten with a bat and suffered significant injuries. Normally, there would be a criminal investigation. But why didn't they press charges? I tried asking the three male victims for their side of the story, but they were all reluctant. It was hard to say, but they were all afraid, even after she transferred schools. Oishi-san, could you summarize it starting from the beginning? Reina hit people while she broke windows? Or was it she started breaking the windows after she got bored of hitting people? They sounded similar, but the meanings were drastically different. On an undisclosed date, Reina Ryugu was conversing with three male students, close friends of hers, near the pool storage shed. Who were those three? I can't reveal their names, but they were close friends of Reina Ryugu, and it seems they were a group of friends. She was the lone girl in their group. So it was strange that the four of them were together. Or wasn't strange. So what happened? I don't know the reason why. She took the baseball team's bat that was in the pool storage shed and beat the three of them down one after the other. What? There were no witnesses. It was an account pieced together by the information given at the time of the incident. One day after school, Reina and the three male students were at the pool storage shed talking together. They weren't seeking help. Rather, they usually met up there. It seems there had been a heated discussion. At that time, excuse me, Reina underwent a change. The change was so abrupt that the three of them didn't comprehend what was happening. Then, taking the metal bat, she attacked her friends one after the other, leaving her friends covered in blood, with gashes on their head. She made her way towards the school building. Then she broke the glass windows one after the other. A few minutes later, a teacher appeared on scene and subdued her. I'm gonna clear my throat. What was this change Reina underwent? What matches up with the statements from the three students was a sudden change. The point that there was a transformation. Transformation? I also could recall Reina's transformation. I'd seen that change many times before. It was so different from the usual Reina that I couldn't help but believe was someone else who looked like Reina. That transformation they're talking about, had it happened before? No, there was nothing like that. As far as I could find out, in her medical history and past, there was nothing like that. Does this happen often? Where people say change suddenly like Reina did? Of course it does. There are plenty of psychological phenomena that could cause something like that. Then you're saying there was a dormant element in Reina that caused that transformation? I cannot say for certain. I'm gonna take a sip of water. Jump cut! Excuse me. Alright. Excuse me. Cut here. But according to the statements of her friends, it's hard to believe she had such a side to her. Kind, caring, and adorable. Even before she transferred here, she was probably pretty popular in school like she was now. That girl transforming suddenly and assaulting them with a bat? Who can imagine such a thing? Nobody could have seen it coming. I, myself, sometimes believe that I was mistaken for thinking that was Reina. Even now. Then, what happened after that? There was a hospital right across from the school, so the three of them were carried and treated quickly. What about Reina? What about the police? Why wasn't there a criminal investigation? You see, the police can't get involved unless they are called. Even though one was badly injured with permanent damage, why didn't they file charges? That's what caught my attention as well. Either some threat or pressure was placed on them, or they had a reason they couldn't file charges even if they wanted to. We're talking about you, after all. Of course you looked into it, didn't you? Well, yeah, but I told you at the beginning, didn't I? That the victims were all very reluctant to talk? They didn't want to touch on the matter. Oop, sorry. Or rather, they didn't want to be involved. Reluctant to talk. Didn't want to touch it. Didn't want to be involved. It resembled the villagers here in Oyashiro-sama's curse. Did the teacher at the school tell you anything? A school is a hallowed ground. You could say they tend to keep their scandals under wraps. I didn't have a search warrant, so I had to tread lightly, you see. Then there was no comment from the school? No. They denied the incident even happened. It's just 3 male students were carried in for blunt force trauma that day. That's all there was on the hospital records. The victims didn't speak. The school denied it happened. Then you don't know anything at all. Yeah, I know nothing other than the incident itself had taken place. Excuse me. The victims also wish this incident to be kept from the public. So if you and I both forget about it, my Bar-san, then this incident will probably just fade away. For a brief period, we sat in silence. At first glance, it looked like a simple assault case. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. The depths were obscured by rolling waves, sinking quietly into the void, as if it never existed to begin with. After that, she was just suspended by the school, and during that time, she underwent psychiatric counseling. Did you hear anything from that doctor? Again, they were very professional in regards to their ethics, or at least very tight-lipped. Not even after you showed them your badge? I was told to get a warrant. The badge itself has no legally binding authority after all. Then how do you know that Reina confessed that it was Oyashiro-sama who did it? There was a nurse guy I asked in that department. She agreed to help me just from showing her my badge. Then what did she say? Turns out that the nurse hadn't heard everything. Apparently all that she remembered was what she overheard from inside the room. The nurse said that at the time, Reina Ryugu was very calm and mild-mannered. It was more like she was confessing her sins at church than a counseling session. She spoke with her mother there for some of it, but partway through, her mother was asked to leave, so it became private counseling session between just the doctor and Reina for a while. The part with Oyashiro-sama, when did that pop up? Excuse me. Partway through, she screamed the name suddenly. That startled the nurse, and that's why she started listening in. It was Oyashiro-sama! Reina suddenly shouted that. I had no idea what was said before that, so I have no idea what the meaning behind it could have been. The doctor calmly and collectedly asked Reina to have a seat. Sorry about that, if you heard that. What is this Oyashiro-sama you speak of? Gently, ever so gently, the fundamentals of counseling were believing what you were told. Whoever abandons Hinamizawa will be hunted down by Oyashiro-sama. And they've finally gotten to me. That's the town you lived in before you moved here. Is that right, Ryugu-san? I didn't want to move. Not because of my mom and dad's circumstances. We had to. Oh, but because. Oyashiro-sama wouldn't allow it. Ryugu-san must have lots of friends in Hinamizawa. What did I just say? Hinamizawa. Even now you must be missing them dearly, don't you think? I want to go back. Back to Hinamizawa. No, it's not that I want to go back. I have to go back. I should have gone back much sooner. But now it's too late. Oyashiro-sama has come. Oyashiro-sama is the name of the god in Hinamizawa, isn't that right? Everyone knows. It's Hinamizawa's guardian deity. Had to take off my bandana. And if you ever try abandoning Hinamizawa and leaving, you'll incur his wrath. You had moved quite a while, hadn't you? Then it was just now that this god has arrived. Is that what you're saying? One second. Excuse me. You might not believe me, but Oyashiro-sama exists. That nurse was then asked by another nurse to do something and left the room. That was all she remembered. That was Oyashiro-sama's doing, right? I do believe that there is a kind of superstition in Hinamizawa. That if you leave the village, then you incur Oyashiro-sama's wrath. I always thought Oyashiro-sama was a girl. Excuse me. That's just me. You should be familiar with this part, my bar-san. I knew very well that those scorned by the village incurred. Whatever. To hinder the dam construction project, they concurred the construction foreman to his death. Then the following year, Satsugo's parents, supporters and leading advocates for the dam, were cursed to their death. But this was the first time I've heard of the curse incurred by leaving the village. This is my first time hearing that. I can understand outside threats being cursed by the village, but why also villagers who leave? Normally, people who leave villages aren't supposed to be cursed, right? I know it's a bit strange to say it, but I could see it as a rule that the people who come in are the ones who would be cursed. Far from Jupiter, far from his thunder. Curses weren't something to chase after people that leave, were they? Oishi-san pondered for a bit on the other end of the receiver, then began speaking again. Well, I told you long ago, when Hinamizawa was called Onikakushi, didn't I? I recalled hearing that. Long ago, Hinamizawa was feared and respected as the village of ogres. The villagers at the foot of those mountains worshipped the ogres. So Onikakushi was hollowed ground that you could never enter. It came to be said that if you entered carelessly, you were cursed by Oyashiro-sama. Those who set foot in Onikakushi, in other words, Hinamizawa, would be cursed. Sorry, spaced out. I can understand that. I know that. But for leaving to also not be good? That's also the ogres, you see. They were being strictly watched by Oyashiro-sama so they would not enter into our world. In other words, Oyashiro-sama probably restricted interaction between Onikakushi and the rest of the world. I see. I finally understood what sort of thing Oyashiro-sama was. So basically, Oyashiro-sama is more like a warden that protectorate deity, I guess. Pretend I said that word right. Trying to keep this place isolated from the rest of the world. I guess that's how it would seem. I'm sorry, I don't know very much myself. This is mostly what was passed on to me from my grandmother. I can understand it a bit better if it was like that. Those who came to Hinamizawa would be cursed, and those who tried to leave would also be cursed. So, because Arena originally lived in Hinamizawa and moved away, she fulfilled the requirements for being cursed. So that means, because Reina moved away against its wishes, she was cursed by Oyashiro-sama. Is that what it adds up to? In short, that seems to be what it points to, I guess. As a matter of fact, soon afterwards, they did move back to Hinamizawa after all. Those who abandoned Hinamizawa and left were cursed. Then why only Reina? Shouldn't Reina's parents also have been guilty of the same transgression by moving away and have been cursed? Also, in this day and age in Japan, shouldn't there be a lot of people coming and going? If every single one of them was cursed, then it'd be insane. But in reality, it wasn't that big of a deal at all. At most, there would be one person dying and disappearing on the day of Watanagashi. I don't like saying at most, though. Well, anyways, there's a lot I still don't know. Even if it was Oyashiro-sama's curse, it doesn't add up to why her classmates, the victims, who were beaten with a metal bat, wouldn't press charges. You don't think the victims were cowering because they believed what a terrible curse had befallen them, do you? 1 second. Of course I didn't want to believe it. But more importantly, I had just realized something else. There was another bizarre connection that Reina made between Oyashiro-sama's curse and metal bats. Satoshi fell victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse and went missing. I had recently learned that Satoshi had also become infatuated with the metal bat right before he disappeared, just like me. Then Reina as well. She was affected by Oyashiro-sama's curse. She confessed that much to the doctor. And the weapon which she had used at the time of that horrendous act was, again, a metal bat. And finally, me. I'd encountered various things that were inexplicable, and now I was holding on to a metal bat. I was shocked when I learned that Satoshi did the same thing. It could be that the same thing happened to Reina? But there was one critical difference between her and Satoshi's case. That being, Satoshi went missing after falling victim to the curse, but Reina was still here. Both of them had fallen victim to Oyashiro-sama's curse, yet they were met with different endings. And finally, me. I couldn't call it a coincidence anymore. Reina, 1 second. Satoshi, and finally, me. Oh, 1 second. Okay, we're back. Excuse me for the wait. Could it be that I was really under Oyashiro-sama's curse right now? No. More importantly than that, what should I do now? Satoshi had been demoned away, vanishing without a trace. Reina was fine. Fine. Reina had undergone a change. I could only believe that there was something that Reina wasn't residing within her. That wasn't Reina residing within her. Oh, I pressed the wrong key. And here, right now, it was standing before me. Back to reality. Reina, please tell me, what will happen to me? Raiden stood imposingly, not answering. Satoshi disappeared, but Reina didn't disappear. So what will happen to me? Ha 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 ha! I had never heard such an unpleasant laugh before. It had become akin to the sound of her breathing. It was no longer a voice or an expression of feeling. Don't worry. I'll save you. Reina took one step forward, still holding the axe high above her head. Now then, one step closer. Oh my gosh, closer. Reina's face spread out to fill my vision. Speak. One step closer. Reina's nose was close enough to touch mine, and still was pushing closer. There's something you want to say, isn't there? I'll listen. I'll save you, okay? Speak, okay? Speak, okay? I slumped down, landing squarely on my butt. It wasn't for some pathetic reason. It was all I could do to get as far away from Reina. I had felt the guilt that I couldn't let her laughter end. I had the gut feeling that I couldn't let her laughter end. Because when that laughing ended, the moment I picked up on that feeling, my body moved by instinct. I sprang to my feet so fast that I couldn't even believe it, and pushed Reina away with both hands. Reina was light as a feather, thrown about by the unbalanced weight of the axe. She was sent backwards as if she had been carried off by the wind. After confirming that of the corner of my eye, I dashed off at full speed. It was the perfect picture of fleeing like a greased pig. Get away from Reina. Run away. Survive. I couldn't think of anything other than this. While I was running, I remembered I'd been holding onto a bat the entire time. Such a worthless weapon. I couldn't believe I'd forgot about this weapon at such an important time. I sped even farther down the winding path. I didn't even feel myself gasping for breath or my legs getting heavy. My body understood it as well. If I didn't run away from here, I wouldn't live. I could hear the laughter of that simulacrum of Reina coming from behind me. It rang through the trees and in my head, and slowly chiseled away at my sanity. The grove of trees thinned out, my field of vision suddenly expanding. Where was this? For a moment, I was bewildered by the scenery. I felt I knew, but I couldn't quite remember. I quickly realized. It was the dam site. The fact that I dashed madly and ended up in a place like this gave me a bad feeling, like I was following someone's scripted plot. I had a good view of my surroundings, but didn't see a single soul here. This was a terrible spot for someone on the run. My heart was already on the verge of bursting. The muscles in my legs were screaming, but I didn't care. If I stopped here, then they might not even be able to scream for much longer. Even still, I glanced back, looking for an excuse to rest. Reina wasn't there. Instead, I saw two villagers walking around. I breathed a sigh of relief that it wasn't Reina, but a third party. Except the voice inside me rang the alarm once again. Villagers walking around weren't suspicious in and of themselves, but it bothered me. They both wore rough-looking clothes. Empty-handed, they definitely gave the impression that they were just out for a walk. But at this time of day, two adults wandering around without a purpose, it was enough to raise question, or was that suspicion? Raise questions. But more than anything else, those eyes, they weren't chit-chat while walking eyes. They were both silent, heading forward, looking in my direction. Was I at the end of my rope and had finally started imagining things? I should run away. That was probably the best choice. If they weren't involved, I lose them easily by running. If they were part of the group after me, then they would come running after me. Either way, unless I hurried up, Reina would catch up with me. That's right, I was going to run. Deciding that, the moment I began to turn tail, both of them rushed towards me, as if they knew exactly what I was thinking. Somewhere inside me, I had jumped to the conclusion that Reina was the only thing I needed to be afraid of. I made the assumption that I didn't need fear anything else. Excuse me. But right now, I realized just how blatantly wrong I was. Suddenly, the story of Oishi-san told me about the demons all leaving the village to hunt prey floated back through my mind. I could tell that they were both coming after me without even turning around because of their frantic footsteps. Frenetic, my bad. It was frightening, being unable to shake Reina off as she slowly slows in on me. But this didn't even compare. Being pursued with such violent ferocity, this straightforward horror was unparalleled. One of the pursuer's arms grazed my shoulder. Now it wasn't just their frenzied footsteps, but also the distinct sound of their breathing that I could hear. No, I could practically feel them breathing on me. They were already right behind me. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Still running at full tilt, I felt the surrounding area go still. No, it felt like time itself had stopped. I turned my head back slightly in that frozen world, realizing how close my pursuers had gotten to me. I couldn't win against the legs of an adult. In less than the time it would take to blink twice, when this frozen time began moving again, they'd be right on top of me. On top of me. And then, don't think about that, Keiichi. First, realize that you won't be able to shake them off like this. If the fact that you can't get away was a given, then you needed to make a decision. Go with the right or go with the left. You just need to decide which one. Let's go with the left. The moment I decided that, the temporal singularity burst into pieces. Right. Left. I swung the bat in a wide arc with my right arm. Using that inertia, I stopped and suddenly spun. What? The two of them were clearly startled, momentarily losing sight of me, both of their outstretched arms ready to grab me, instead grasped at empty space. The man on the right, I applaud him being able to figure it out, spun around to the spot I shouldn't have been, and faced me in astonishment. But it was too late. I didn't even need to swing my bat. All I needed was to extend my arms as I turned around. It was by no means a heavy blow, but it seemed like it had enough power behind it to knock him off his feet. But just knocking him down wasn't enough to scare him away. He got back up in no time. Both of them took a frightening stance and were ready to face me. This made me certain they weren't just two people after a walk, and they were clearly after me. It felt much easier dealing with Reina. Than dealing with Reina. Just by not recognizing their faces, by not knowing them, it made things easier. I smiled wryly on the inside. What do you want with me? Next one is going to be right in your face, you bastard. It's fine if it was just a bluff, but by barking out at them, I was able to fire myself out. They didn't respond. Dude, I just started the biggest craving for donuts, bro. After this, I'm getting donuts. Celebratory donuts for finishing this game. They spread out to either side of me with the unbelievably calm expressions on their faces. One of them would grab onto my bat, and the other would hold me down. Was that their plan? Taking on both of them at once would be impossible. Hot sweat poured from every pore in my body. Then I'd just have to settle this with the first move. I'd step in and strike the first one down. 1 second. Okay. Narrowing my target down to the man on the right who had already been knocked down before, I stepped in and swung with all my might. There was no way for an unarmed person to guard against it. It would cause immense damage. If they blocked it with their arm, their bone would snap like a twig. If they turned their back to it, then it was possible that the blow would travel all the way to their vital organs. It looked like he was aware of this. 1 second. He pushed farther through the kill zone between us and delivered a fist right into my gut. Not good. With this distance, in this position, and in this state, there was no way for me to dodge it. The world flipped upside down. I understood that I was being tossed around like a rag doll. I had landed on the soft earth without a sound, feeling the grainy soil press against my face. It didn't hurt at all. But the moment I thought that, I suddenly felt pain coming from the abrasions on my skin, as well as the contents of my stomach being forced upwards, flooding my mouth with a bitter sensation. I knew very well that I didn't have time to relish the experience. I stood up as quickly as I could, but at that moment the other man was already barreling towards me. Being able to comprehend calmly that I simply couldn't dodge it, it made it all the more upsetting. After plowing into my stomach full force once again, my assailant twisted around behind me and locked his thick arm around my neck. My throat felt like it was being crushed by his immense strength. I couldn't even contemplate that I was being strangled, or that I was about to go unconscious. My vision simply darkened and a silent whining noise began playing deep inside my mind. Oh, oops. It took everything I had to keep myself from blacking out.
While this was happening, the other man was more than likely standing in front of me. I wasn't able to open my eyes, but I could feel that he was there. There was nothing I could do now. Unable to shake this arm off me, I couldn't run. I couldn't fight back. Dire straits. I couldn't even come up with the phrase that adequately described my situation. A familiar ceiling, the smell of the bed and the pillows. I knew them well. Was this my room? Normally there wouldn't be anyone in the room besides me, but their presence made me spring wide awake. When I did that, pain shot throughout my entire body. Feeling all right? I think you better just lie down for a bit. Why was Raina in my room? Blood began to surge through my muscles and all my cap- capillaries? But Raina's smile belonged to the Raina I knew well. I knew I shouldn't let myself feel this way, but I relaxed thinking of that this version of Raina was safe. Why am I... Don't you remember? After losing consciousness, nothing at all. My body had become more lethargic than I could ever have imagined. But I guess that would be the expected outcome after exerting everything I had back there. I tried to at least clear my head, but I just couldn't shake the sluggish feeling out of my mind. I called the doctor. He should be here soon. I think you better just lie down until then. I wasn't injured seriously enough to merit calling a doctor, but knowing that someone impartial was coming was slightly reassuring. Why am I here? I'm sure I was at the dam site. That's what I want to know. What happened? When I got there, Ch.1 was already passed out. That's why I'm the one who wants to know. I was attacked by two weirdos. As I talked about it, I finally remembered what happened right before I passed out. Recalling that memory and the terror that went along with it caused the fogginess around my head to clear right up. Let's forget about those two for now. I didn't expect Arena to be nursing me. I thought Raina was trying to kill me. She would have had the perfect chance while I was unconscious. I'm going to clear my throat. Not only did she not kill me, she had nursed me back to health. Amazing you could drag me all the way back here. Wasn't I heavy? Looking at Raina's delicate frame, it was hard to believe that she had not only gotten me back home, but even dragged me all the way up to the second floor. One second. Did she have some help? Don't you remember, Kichkun? Raina appeared a bit surprised, but still kept her smile. I only propped you up on my shoulder. You said you could walk on your own and that you were fine. You don't remember? I didn't remember. My memory was fuzzy after the point where I lost consciousness. Get to clear my throat? What about those two? Huh? When you got there, Raina, the ones with me, or rather, those two guys. There wasn't anyone. She said it bluntly. The way she stated it felt slightly unpleasant. I was just too timid at the time. I might have been able to force some answers out of Raina, but if I did that, this kind of Raina might transform into the scary Raina who I didn't know. Fearing that, I didn't press any further. Thinking about it, it was the obvious choice. If both of those men were there, I don't think Raina would have even stood a chance. I could find a way to I could find a way to explain it unless I assumed she brought me here after those two were already gone. Raina was still smiling. Her eyes sparkled warmly. Yet, I felt like I was hallucinating when I saw something. Something akin to a shadow slowly creeping across her face. That small omen sent shivers down my spine. While Raina was still Raina, I needed to make contact. I needed to contact Oishi-san. Reina stopped me when I tried to get out of bed. She said that it would aggravate my wounds, so I should sleep. I'd like to go to the bathroom, though. Sorry. Reina couldn't say anything else. While Reina stayed in the room, I quickly went downstairs to get the phone receiver in the living room. When I approached the front door, the bell rang. It must have been the doctor Reina had called. It was strange for a patient to welcome the doctor who was making a house call, but it would be incredibly reassuring to have him here for the considerable time it would take Oishi-san to get here. I carelessly opened the door with that simple assumption, and regretted it almost instantly. Mion? Oh, you look just fine. I heard you collapsed, so I came to check up on you. How did you know I collapsed? I heard from Reina over the phone. Do I need any other reason than that? I understood why she would call a doctor, but why Mion too? Reina was descending the stairs behind me. Reina, doesn't Kei-chan look pretty alright? She made me worry for nothing. That's true. Maybe I worried for nothing as well. They both began laughing. It appeared to be cheerful laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a darkness looming over them. Whoa, what's up with this shoe rack? How did it get like this? The shoe rack that I had smashed to pieces had been like that since yesterday. I fell, you see, and the bat I was holding at the time smashed into it. 1 second. This is what happens when you swing around something you're not used to handling. I kept the fact that it was none of their business to myself. But leaving like this will really startle your parents when they get home. I'll fix it up for you later. Now, come on, Kei-chan. Excuse me, Kei-chan. The terminally ill need their rest. Come on, back to bed. Back in bed. Both of them urged me up the stairs. I had no chance to call Oishi-san. I was pushed onto my bed. As it was the first time Mion had been in my room, she began searching around it intently. She fiddled around my room and was scolded by Reina. You can imagine how it went. It was uncomfortable having my room poked around, but the conversation was so benign that it was heartwarming. Excuse me. During that innocent conversation, Mion said something as if it was perfectly ordinary. Reina, did you call the manager? Yep, right after I called Michan. He said he'd be right over. Manager? That out-of-place word gave me a bad feeling. Reina called a doctor, then called Mion. After that, she called a manager? Who was this manager? Since Reina and Mion's conversation was so peaceful, it only felt slightly odd. What are you two talking about? Who's this manager? Don't you know, Kei-chan? We mean the manager when we say manager. Like the director of a movie, or like a foreman of a construction site. I dug through all my all my memories for a manager. I'm gonna check my video 1 second. All right, we're back. I'm gonna restart this line here. I dug through all my memories for a manager who might have business with me. Only one thing came to mind. What Reina had just said. The construction site foreman. The very first victim of the first incident. The dismemberment at the damn construction site. The foreman? But that was strange. He was supposed to be dead. There was no way they could call him. I don't understand what you guys are talking about. What does that manager have to do with me? You said he was coming. Did you mean to my house? I asked one obvious question after the other, but all the two of them did was smile coolly at each other. There was a huge difference between how the two of them appeared and how my suspicions were playing out. Slowly, I felt discomfort and panic welling up inside me. I couldn't understand what Reina and Mion were talking about. Kei-chan, you've gotten into baseball lately, haven't you? Pretty sure the manager will be happy to hear that. So who's this manager? The manager is the manager. So who is this manager? Reina and Mion looked at each other and laughed haughtily. That disturbing cackle unpleasantly resounded around me. That laugh, long enough to be unsettling, ended abruptly. Oh yeah, we should finish up before the manager comes. You remember, don't you, Kei-chan? Her face was laughing, but Mion's eyes told a different story. Remember? Remember what? Keiichi-kun, had he forgotten, I wonder? About the penalty? About the penalty. Did you really forget? The homework with the mochi. The homework where you were supposed to guess which one Reina made? You forgot about that homework, didn't you? I certainly did have that homework, but I had thrown away the rest of the mochi after I found that sewing needle. So I wasn't able to answer which one Reina made. The penalty for that? Why now? No doubt my question was written all over my face. Their answer to my question was that dry laughter. I could no longer make heads or tails of anything. I began to think that this entire day was somehow insane, strange, incomprehensible. Being chased by Reina, attacked by strange men, the penalty that Reina and Mion were talking about. What were these two laughing at? It didn't take long for me to realize I had been dragged into an abnormal situation. Who were these two? Who were these people? Who were these doppelgangers of Reina and Mion? Reina had gotten behind me at some point. Why was she pinning my arms behind my back? What are you doing? Don't move. This is your penalty. My body was already very sluggish, and Reina pinning my arms made it that much harder to move. I seriously tried to struggle, but she wouldn't even budge. My panic began to well up, and I realized this was well beyond the realm of jokes and pleasantries. This freakishly monstrous strength. It would have been impossible for the Reina that I knew. Then, these thin, frail arms grasping me firmly. Whose arms were they? Kei-chan, no struggling. Club rules. There are no exceptions. You can't fight against the penalty. Mion. No. That thing that looks like Mion. Spoke to me like how Mion would speak to me. But I was certain that this was not Mion. Someone who wasn't Mion. Someone who was just pretending to be Mion. Need to finish this up before the manager comes. I am so sorry if you heard that. I just dropped my glass. Mion fished into her pockets and pulled out something bizarre. I could tell what it was just by looking, but for such a thing to be in her pocket, my mind wouldn't accept it. What is that? It was a small syringe. It was a small, clear syringe, like what a doctor would use when you went to him when you were sick. Reina held me even tighter, and I could hear that clattering laughter that no longer sounded like laughter blaring into my ear. That eerie laughter. It wasn't something that the Reina I ever knew could produce from her own throat. This thing that was pretending to be Reina, was this their real laugh? Unable to defend myself, the syringe Mion holding drew closer, and that needle tip waved in front of my face countless times. Don't worry, don't worry. It won't hurt. It won't hurt. What are you planning on doing? What kind of sick joke is this? What are you saying, Kei-chan? You know exactly what's going on, don't you? About what? I don't understand any of this at all. I know you know. No use playing the fool this late in the game. Stop talking nonsense and trying to confuse me. You're going to have done what you happened to Taki-san. What? The same as Toмотaki-san? I didn't really understand what that meant. What did that have to do with this syringe? You're playing dumb, Keiichi-kun. You should have realized it by now. Reina whispered into my ear, laughing as if to admonish me. But even the way she spoke was repulsive beyond compare. Playing dumb? Me? About what? What do you mean, the same as Toмотaki-san? Everyone thought at first that it was a hit and run, except when the officer got closer to check if he was still alive. He soon noticed it wasn't a normal situation. His throat was scratched out. From a knife or something? No. Nails. Nails? Nails as in fingernails? With those gouged through? That's right. Toмотaki-san had clawed out his own throat with his own nails and died. There's no way someone could die like that. So then, for that to happen, we thought drugs were to blame, but nothing of that nature was detected. That's right. The police didn't find any drugs in Tomotaki's system. The police told me they didn't find any drugs in Tomotaki's body. The two of them laughed together with that sickening laughter. Of course they'd laugh. To assume that such a medicine didn't exist just because the police didn't know about it was completely foolish. Meaning, the drug that caused Tomotaki-san to die in such a bizarre manner did exist? If Mion-san injected this into me, then that would probably be all the proof I needed. That would basically mean I'd end up the same as Tomotaki-san. Become hysterical, scratching out my throat in the last moments, and die. For such an outrageous drug to exist, for Mion to be holding it, and then I was about to be injected with it. At that moment, I did not feel that there was any need whatsoever to question it. What kind of idiot, when he's trying to dodge a ball flying straight for his face, has time to think of a reason why it's flying at him? Just give up. All right then. Mion's action lacked any gravitas, and that made it even more terrifying. There was none of the ceremony like when someone was sentenced to death. There was no hesitation at all, as if she were brushing her teeth. Mion reached out with one hand and grabbed onto my chest. It felt like electricity had run through the back of my head, and the entire world had gone dark. Did I stand up too fast? Or did someone hit me really hard in the back of my head? Having lost my sense of balance, I was assaulted by a wave of dizziness. This is the midpoint of the chapter? That's insane. There's no way this is midpoint. One second. I squatted down for a bit. When I came back to my senses, my entire room had changed drastically. The numbers in my head was gone, or numbness, and slowly, I could tell the blood was flowing to my extremities again. How long had I been squatting here? How many minutes? Or has it been hours? It was almost as if the hands on the clock stopped moving the entire time my eyes were closed. That's how little time had passed. Really? The air in the room wasn't filled with that madness from before. Only a dull silence. Reina wasn't pinning my arms anymore, and Mion wasn't there about to inject me with a needle. No way. Could it be? All of it was a hallucination? There was no other presence in the room besides my own. It was the weirdest experience I'd ever had. I was certainly with Reina and Mion. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but I was also seized with some sort of comfort. I guess that terrible ordeal was a hallucination. Neither Reina nor Mion. They would never do something so terrible. My head grew hot. I could tell my emotions were welling up. Why? That wasn't a reason to cry. Why? It was sorrow. Why was I sad? I don't understand. I don't understand. Kind to everyone, not discriminating against age or gender. Mion. That Mion was sprawled by the window in an unnatural pose. Blood stained her a deep red from her head down to her chest. The bright crimson smeared on the walls. That splatter had undoubtedly came from Mion. She always had that bright smile and was kind to me from the day I transferred. Reina. That same Reina was slumped at my feet and was making the same pool of blood as Mion. I couldn't comprehend what had happened. Did someone come to save me? Did they beat these two down? With this metal bat? I finally noticed the weight in my right hand. How long it had been there. It was Satoshi's metal bat. It was covered in a deep red. There was no doubt that this was this weapon used to mutilate both of them. And I was holding that weapon. I was the only person in the house. I... Looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of anyone other than myself who could have done it. I did this? That's right. Keiichi Maibara. Of course I did it. I told myself gently, as if coaxing myself. Hey, me. There's no reason for you to remember, nor is there any reason to regret it. Eat or be eaten. You get that, don't you? But the blood, there's so much. Neither Reina nor Mion had moved an inch. It wasn't just a split forehead and a trickle of blood. Nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered with red, and that told me it didn't end with just 2 or 3 strikes. Were they dead? Both of them? The depths of my mind were calm, but on the surface I was panicking and agitated. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. What happened to your usual calm self? Come on now. Do like you always do. Throw your head back and take a deep breath. Come on. Once. Twice. Breathe deeply. Calm down. Calm down. I chanted that over in my head and relaxed. Color came back to my vision, and smells reinfused the air. At the same time, I remembered what happened when I blacked out. Reina and Mion attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused that same symptoms as Tomotaki-san. But right before that happened, I fought back. I twisted my whole body and threw Reina as she was pinning my arms. Then I followed through with my spin and rammed my foot as hard as I could into Mion's torso. It was soft. Reina tried jumping on me, so I tackled her as hard as I could and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that brief moment of having them off balance slip by. Satoshi's bat was left carelessly by the side of my desk. Weep. At that moment, everything went pitch black. There was nothing recorded past this point in the videotape of my mind. No, that wasn't right. It wasn't that there was nothing recorded. It was recorded just fine. Just the other me inside myself had told me not to look and had turned off the TV. Just because the screen had gone black and I couldn't see it didn't mean that the videotape within me hadn't recorded it. The TV was just off. The video was still playing. The tape within me, creaking along, still playing. On the other end of that pitch black screen, that horrifying video was still playing on. Compared to this, though, this and the scene right before my eyes was still so difficult to take in. There was blood splattered everywhere on the walls, the two of them in these unnatural poses. Not a sign of movement from them. I couldn't even tell if they were breathing. No matter what the circumstances were, my friends, these girls, I had attacked them. I may have even killed them. But if I hadn't done this, I would have been the one done for. Balancing that out in an imaginary scale, it felt odd that I'd even feel bad about it. Even if it was a bit excessive, this was justifiable self-defense. The proof was all here. The two of them collapsed here in Mion's syringe. Mion's syringe filled with some unknown drug would certainly solve the mystery surrounding the incident with Tomotaki-san. And from the fact that both of these two were involved, they'd be able to pick out the criminals one after another. Still, I might be suspected for this. But that was just fine. Anyway, now this should be a police affair. This wouldn't fade into the darkness like Reina's past incidents. As long as the police were involved, that should bring this to a close. They'll probably revisit their investigation on the chain of incidents. Oishi-san would definitely get to the bottom of it. Meaning my wish of not wanting to die, of wanting to know the truth. That would be fulfilled in its most basic form. It was all a matter of time now. The Dr. Reina called should be getting here soon. I'll confess everything to him. I needed to contact Oishi-san. At that moment, I remembered. Besides the doctor, a manager had been called. It was easy to imagine that they were someone deeply involved with the incidents, judging from Reina and Mion's conversation. The ache in my chest, caused rapidly by the gruesome deed I'd done, dissipated rapidly. It was not over yet. This place was no longer safe. Stay calm, Keiichi Maibara. It's not over yet. I needed to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. At that moment, I felt like I heard someone's voice from outside. Since people were speaking, it must mean there was more than one person. I moved the curtain ever so slightly and peered outside. It was a bizarre sight. About 4 or 5 grown men were all gathered at the gate. This very much resembled the 2 men who had assaulted me the day at the dam site. Those 2 might even be among them. There was one person there wearing a white coat, but he didn't look like a doctor at all. My gut told me he was in disguise, only posing as a doctor. That guy would probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door. Pretend to be a doctor to get me to open the door, and then the rest of them would all rush in at once. At that moment, I saw the car parked behind the men, and my heart nearly skipped a beat. The white van! No mistaking it. That van, the one that had tried to run me down? The man in the white coat entered the gate and headed towards the front door. The rest of the men hid in the bushes and watched him. I probably couldn't pretend that I wasn't home. Undoubtedly, they'd just break the window and enter. I needed to get out of here somehow. Then, use a public phone to contact Oishi-san. Then meet up somewhere. First of all, I need a weapon. Then shoes. But before all that, there was one thing I had to do. I had no intention of dying. I'd live and reveal the truth about this nonsensical curse of Oyashiro-sama. But what would happen from here on? Regardless of how determined I was, maybe bringing about my demise. And that's why there was one thing more important than getting out of here right now. I needed to get that clock out quickly and take down the note hidden behind it. Damn it! The tape was sticking to it fast. It'd be fine if it was torn a little. I opened up the slightly torn note and began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. If I wasn't able to inform Oishi-san, then the only thing I could rely on was this note. I never thought a piece of torn, college-ruled notebook paper could be this reliable before. I had no time. I'd only write down what I knew right now. I needed to leave some sort of information that would lead to uncover the truth. Reina and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. This was an undeniable fact. I still didn't want to believe it, but it was a fact. Anyway, I'd leave all the information that was to help them lead to finding the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This was everything I was able to see from the window. There may be more. Also, there was that unidentified person known as the manager. To begin with, the term manager didn't even mesh with Hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the managers from the past incidents, then the only one is the construction foreman, the victim from the first murder. The very first victim in the chain of incidents. Killed in a lynching, his body divided into 6 pieces. His right arm was never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death. But Reina and Mion both did call him a manager. They said manager. They wouldn't use that term to refer to someone who was dead. The police wouldn't even conceive that someone who was deceased could be involved. Could that be some sort of oversight? I didn't know. But even if I didn't know, I could be a big hint for Oishi-san. One second. That's right. They needed to start fresh from the first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but the start of the string of mysterious deaths that would follow. So then there must be something hidden there. Please reinvestigate the victim from the dismemberment incident. He is alive. His death should have been established after the autopsy. Logically, you would think as much. But was that really the case? Could it have been some sort of ploy that they were able to deceive the police with? I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but he may still be alive. I had no time to ponder that right now. Oh yeah, there's something even more important that I need to write. Tomataki-san's death was from an unknown drug. That's right, that drug. It was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt. Just by having this, everything would be uncovered. I couldn't just leave that vital clue lying on the floor. This syringe is proof. Writing that down, I struck the syringe onto the back of the clock with plenty of tape, so it absolutely would not slip out and fall on the floor. Firmly, firmly. The bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write any more. But even still, there was one last thing that I had to write. I have no idea why it has become like this. This may be the closest thing to the truth out of everything I write on this note. If you are reading this, then I am probably already dead, though you may or may not find my body. If I was going to write out everything that I could happen, either dying from the curse or being demoned away, you, who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. With this, my last will and testament was complete. It wasn't certain that I was going to die, but it was my final plea, just in case. I folded the note, stuck it back onto the back of the clock, and returned the clock back to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray. Oishi-san, if something happens to me, I leave the rest to you. After that, I gazed down silently at Reina and Mion. This was probably the last time we'd ever see each other. Reina, Mion, I really had thought all of us were friends. But why did it end up like this? I never had any fun in my previous school. I only worried about standardized test scores, about if the school I hoped to get into was really where I wanted to go or a safety net. That was all I talked about. It was a dull life. The people I called my friends were also my rivals in studying, in competitions, in personal records and standardized test scores. Everyone here taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. This month really was fun. Making a fuss over lunch, making a fuss over the club, making a fuss over the festival. Something hot began dripping from my face. Uncontrollable tears. I should have no obligation to shed tears for them. But they wouldn't stop. Even if they were after my life. Even if they were trying to kill me. Everything that had happened this month, I wouldn't forget it. Or could it be those happy days were all a facade as well? Was it all a trap? Meticulously orchestrated up until today to ensnare me? Could it have been that I had just arbitrarily assumed they were my friends? That couldn't have been the case. Both Reina and Mion, they were really my friends. Those happy days. There was nothing fake or unclear about them. Someone probably forced them to try to kill me. Or their minds were taken over, possessed by the supernatural entity known as Oyashiro-sama. Regardless, both Reina and Mion, they were the bestest friends ever. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition. Wait, they weren't the kind of people to sell off their friends, regardless of whether or not they were forced. There's no way such a thing like being possessed by Oyashiro-sama could happen in reality. Then, did the real Reina and Mion come after me? What was I thinking? What a silly, dumb idea. Having beaten down both Reina and Mion, I was still debating if they were the real ones or fakes. There was no real or fake, only the reality that was before me. Reina and Mion were sprawled out at my feet. That was the only truth. I was only trying to twist the facts to my benefit, that I had beaten my friends to death. No matter how I spun it, it wouldn't change reality. Reina and Mion were both dead. It felt like there was a crack in the dam of strange emotions I was holding back. It felt like my calm state, which was nothing more than a bluff, had receded, and in that opening, insanity was leaking out. I killed them. I killed them. Reina and Mion. I killed them. The doorbell rang again. That unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure once again. I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I needed to get away. I didn't want to die. I would uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever or whatever had pushed me this far. Even if I had to drink mud and eat grass, I would survive. I would survive. I would definitely survive. I killed Reina for that very reason. I also killed Mion. I went that far just to keep living. So I can't die. For my sake and for the sake of the late Reina and Mion. I have to survive. I ran towards the door and grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again as if to urge me on. behind this single solitary door. They were there. Keeping quiet, I headed towards the door in the kitchen, heading towards the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked for people outside. No one? After I put on my shoes, I opened the door slowly as to make not a sound. There he is! The back door! A piercing voice echoed out. That voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run. Get out of here, Keiichi! One after the other, I felt stuff like rationale and intelligence, those things you use when you have time to spare, spill out of me. I didn't feel any pain from the branches scratching my arms and forehead. My autonomously pulsing heart also felt neither fatigue nor pain. My entire being just wished to live. There was nothing else it desired. It probably had no complaints whatsoever, so of course I wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran, just recklessly rushing in the direction I was already heading. Even if nobody was chasing after me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a thought in my mind about where I was headed. Turning around, I felt a presence right next to me. The presence was, without a doubt, chasing me like my shadow. If I took even one misstep, I would be devoured. That's what I thought, so I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran, at full speed. That was the chirping of the Higurashi telling me it was evening, trying to tell me something, and then I finally heard it. The wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Would I be joining them? Only the Higurashi knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. So, I ran towards where I could hear more of the chirps of the Higurashi. But the farther I ran, the farther away their chirping became. I couldn't get near them. Why are you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? Then I'll apologize. I'm sorry. 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 I'm not going to keep repeating it. I felt that only the Higurashi knew. Chased by shadows. The smoking room was filled with a cloud of cigarette smoke. The expensive smoke filter gave off some crackling electric noise, but it didn't seem like it was doing anything at all. Why do smokers have to be shoved so far down this corridor where the sun didn't even reach? I recalled hearing that the tax revenue from tobacco was about a tenth of the municipality's revenue. I just butchered that. We were the most heavily taxed members of the municipality. I can't say that word, I'm sorry. So I really wish they'd show us a little more respect. Why would you discard the 5 Manzu there? It's just decreasing your options. One of the younger detectives was having a staring contest with the Mahjong magazine called Next Turn. You're still in Tenpai if you cut to the 5 Manzu. If you're betting on Haite, then shouldn't you be going into it with a Mangun? Kuma-chan, look at the pond. They all discarded a 5 Manzu. It's a safe tile. You'd hate it if, at endgame, someone was sitting on a Tenpai on the last turn, wouldn't you? The kid let out another groan, put out his cigarette, then took out another one. Excuse me. I just don't agree. Why would you reduce your own options? By the way, you can't call Roan with your winning tile in that Haite. Why? What? Why is that? Just then, I heard a voice coming from down the hall. Are you here, Oishi-san? You have a call from a civilian. Oh, I guess this is like the POV of Oishi-san. Whoa, ain't that something? Well, see you soon. Why can't you call Roan on it? Hold on for a second, Oishi-san. Excuse me. The man sitting in the seat Oishi-san was heading towards waved at the telephone receiver. Outside line, from a payphone. Oh, why thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Oishi. Who is it? Ah, Oishi-san. Hello? If it isn't my Barasan, Why, good evening. From the tone, Maibara-kun's voice, I already knew he was in a predicament. This was the first time Maibara-kun had phoned me, and he was calling from a payphone. Please calm down. Did something happen? Well, ah! His voice was erratic over the line. He had completely lost his sense of composure. After checking that nobody else could hear, I prompted him in a hushed tone. What happened? I... Calm down, Maibara-san. I can have the local officers head to your location. I'll be there soon, too. I think that's impossible. His voice was quivering and hoarse. He wasn't surrounded by people, even as he was making this call, was he? Maibara-san, you're calling from a payphone right now, right? Where is that payphone? There were no other sounds besides Maibara-kun's voice. It had to be a phone booth. I scratched out a note and thrust it at my colleague sitting across from me. Hinomizawa, phone booth. He understood quickly and hastily started on the internal lines. Calm down, Maibara-san. What is your current situation? It usually wasn't a good idea to tell someone panicking to do so, but this was not a usual case. Maibara-kun didn't just get in trouble, get away, and then call me. He was in the midst of something dangerous right now. But yelling at Maibara-kun right now would just needlessly cause him to even be more frantic. Maibara-kun wasn't just calling to seek help. He was trying to tell us something more than that. And whatever that was, even if I didn't get it from this call, I was certain there would never be another chance. My colleague pushed the note in front of me. There's only one booth in Hinomizawa. A patrol car is on the way. 5 minutes. That's too long. How many officers are in there? 2. Not enough. If that was as I was imagined, there were likely quite a few people surrounding Maibara-kun. 5 minutes was too long. Did you call the officer station in Hinomizawa? He's scheduled to be on patrol. They're currently out, and it'll be impossible to contact them. Damn! Kuma-chan, bring the car around. Understood. Hello, Oishi-san. Hello, it's all right. I can hear you loud and clear. There was something wrong with Maibara-kun. That wasn't a normal coughing sound. Vomiting? Or was it blood? Had he already been attacked? Was he injured? Maibara-san, the police are on their way. They'll be there in a couple of minutes, so hold on somehow. Hello? Can you hear me? Maibara-san. I could hear on the other end of the line that he was having a coughing fit. The worst possible situation popped into my head. Maibara-san! Who was the culprit? How many are there? I thought at first the culprit was human. I couldn't tell if that was a cough or vomiting. Are you all right, Maibara-san? I thought that the culprit was a person, and not Oyashiro-sama's curse, up until right now. But I guess in the end, it was an intense bout of coughing, then vomiting. But I guess Oyashiro-sama does exist. No, he is here. Maibara-san, please, just please calm down. I had been thinking it was strange for a while now. It's been following me around this whole time. I run and run and run, but it just sticks to me like my shadow. But slowly, so slowly, it's digging itself into my back. Maibara-san, are they right now, perhaps right behind you? Behind me. Right behind me. Please, Maibara-san, I can tell you're scared, but please, who is it? That's right behind you. I can't just look behind me. If I do, I'll... I understand that you're scared, but please tell me. You just need to turn around a bit. Who is it? Who is behind you, Maibara-san? Right after I said that, I could hear him vomiting immensely. What followed was a nightmarish sound. Maibara-san, it couldn't be that you're clawing at your own throat? There was no answer, but I could hear something like scratching. There was a bang, as if someone was being hit. Maibara-kun had probably dropped the receiver. I could hear groaning and vomiting over on the other end, and a repeating abnormal noise. Hello? Hello? Maibara-san? Hello? I knew how far away my voice would sound on the other end, but I couldn't help but shout. At that moment, I heard whispering coming from the other end. I couldn't tell what he was saying. From the way he was saying it, was he talking to himself? Or was he talking to someone there? Hello? Maibara-san? Rather than whispering, it was some kind of mantra he was chanting over and over. I focused my senses, trying to pick up on what he was saying.
What was he repeating? What exactly?
Beep! Suddenly, the line went dead. Did he use up his time? It was because it was a payphone. Ah, it was because it cut out so abruptly. The last thing he said came out so clearly in my mind. Oishi-san, the card's good to go. Oishi-san. It was, I'm sorry. Oishi-san. That's what he was repeating over and over. He said, I'm sorry. I had a gut feeling. There was no longer a need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the Higurashi spilling in from the open window. I should have been able to hear them this entire time. I just wasn't paying attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? Were they trying to tell me something? Only the Higurashi knew. That's how it felt. July 1983. In Hinomizawa, a remote village near Shishibon City, there was a murder involving two female students. The suspect is Keiichi Maibara. The suspect called over his two female classmates, Reno Ryugu and Mion Sonozaki, to his house and beat them to death with a metal bat. The scene of the crime was the suspect's room on the second floor of his house. The inside of the room was covered with a significant quantity of splattered blood, and there were signs of a struggle with the victims. In addition to the scene of the crime, the entryway, living room, and kitchen all had traces of a struggle. At the entryway, the shoe rack wall had evidence of being impacted by a strong blunt force. It is believed to have been the same bat as the murder weapon. Having no traces of blood, it's believed the destruction occurred before the murders. There is the possibility that the suspect overpowered his victims to keep them from fleeing. In the living room, the rug had been pulled back, then thrown aside. It is hard to believe that this had a connection to the struggle with the victims, and thus the reason for this remains unknown. In the kitchen, the garbage bag was torn apart, and its contents were spread out on the floor. Garbage was strewn about in the surrounding area, and handprints believed to belong to the suspect were discovered. It is believed that the suspect had for some reason taken out the garbage and struck it with his fists. The reason for this remains unknown. In addition, there was a note stuck to the fridge. The words, "Was there a needle?" were written on it. The meaning behind this remains unclear. Just in case, the garbage was searched, but a needle was not discovered. Though the garage door was functional, it had been left open ever since the suspect moved in. The garage door was found closed. The suspect's fingerprints were discovered on the garage door. The reason behind this remains unknown. The suspect fled the scene of the crime. However, a patrolling officer, Hinomizawa Local PD, found the suspect collapsed inside a phone booth. At the time of discovery, the suspect was unconscious in critical condition. He was rushed to the local hospital for treatment, but did not regain consciousness and died 24 hours later. The results of the autopsy indicate the immediate cause of death to have been hypovolemic shock. It was determined that the suspect had clawed at his own throat with his fingernails, and the resulting bleeding caused his death. With the similarity of the death to Tomotaki-san the prior week, the police believe there had been a connection between and have opened an investigation. However, due to the local authorities, it will be a confidential investigation. Due to the abnormal nature of the death, it was suspected that drugs were involved, but as Tomotaki-san, no suspected drugs were involved or detected. What prompted all this remains inexplicable. As such, the case is being treated as an act committed on impulse. However, with several accounts of the suspect's bizarre behavior leading up to the incident, it is possible that this was premeditatorial. Separated from his group of friends, isolation, inexplicable behavior. Several days before the incident, the suspect began carrying around a metal bat. The suspect was observed displaying aggressive behavior, as well as talking to himself at school. His classmates have actually heard portions of what he was saying. 2 days before the incident, the suspect declared to his parents the possibility of his death. Due to these circumstances, the police have begun an investigation on the possibility that his crime was not committed on impulse, but instead was planned several days beforehand. Afterwards, a note was found in the suspect's room that he had written himself. The note was written on 2 sheets from a B5 college-ruled notebook that had each been torn in half, and as if trying to conceal, it was stuck behind a clock on the wall. The contents are as written in the appendix. The police believed to strongly be related to the incident. Oh, believe it to be strongly related to the incident. The police changed the line of investigation, based on the possibility that the suspect was involved in some sort of incident himself. However, no further clues were found, casting doubt on the credibility of the note. Was the crime impulsive or premeditated? With the situation unclear and no further developments, the case has been labeled as unsolved. However, the following year, suspicion arose regarding the nature of the note. The note was not written on 2 halves of B5 paper from separated 2 sheets, but was originally a single sheet of B5 paper. In order to erase several lines from the middle, someone had torn them out. Judging from the size of the letters, the missing section is estimated to be 2 to 3 lines. It is highly probable that the person who eliminated the lines in question is not the suspect. In addition, what do you mean? In addition, judging from traces of large quantities from cellophane tape being stuck to the back of the clock, speculation that something other than the note had been there has arisen. The person who first discovered the crimes was a detective rumored to have connection with the incident, Kurado Oishi. Yeah, Oishi. We know him. He underwent voluntary questioning but denies his involvement and any damages to the evidence. The suspect's note. I, Keiichi Maibara, am in fear for my life. I do not know why they are after my life. The only thing I do know is that it has to do with Oyashiro-sama's curse. Rena and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is all on the first sheet. Everything below has been ripped out. This is from the second sheet. Everything above this has been ripped out. I have no idea why it has become like this. If you are reading this, then I am probably already dead, though the only difference may be the presence or a lack of body. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. Keiichi Maibara. Wow. What a chapter. What a chapter. A new scenario. All cast review session has become available to play it. Select extra on the title menu and then pick the all cast review session. All right. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to check that out. And if I don't end up being that into it, I'll jump cut to the end. Oh. Thank you for buying Higurashi When They Cry Onikakushi, a visual novel by 07th Expansion. How was it? If you enjoyed it even a little bit, it would make me happy. Even a little bit is stretching it. That incredibly dark ending made me angry, you know. Made us angry. As I understand it, this Onikakushi chapter is supposed to be somewhat of a prologue to the entire series. How could the prologue have such an incredibly dark ending? Yeah, but doesn't that happen sometimes? The player digging through the story in order to avoid a bad ending is the point of these types of games after all. It's still just the first chapter. I'm looking forward to the next one. What happens in the next chapter? Reina, do you know? Yeah, they said the next chapter will introduce another aspect of the story. That's a strange way of putting it. What does that mean? In this chapter, they introduced the string of mysterious deaths that were happening in Hinamizawa recently, right? The next chapter will introduce some of the history of Hinamizawa. With one strange event happening after another, I got totally lost. What exactly is Oyashiro-sama's curse about? Actually, what is Oyashiro-sama to begin with? They didn't explain it much. I haven't heard much about it, but I have kind of a bad feeling about it. It feels like it'll be another one of those scary stories where somebody gets cursed again. Tough luck, eh, Kei-chan? What kind of curse is he gonna get hit with this time? However, I am looking forward to see what kind of story it's going to be. Sorry for being late. My bad, my bad. Hey everybody, good work today. Same to you. Huh? Where's Kei-chan? Keiichi-kun is already off reading the script for the next chapter. It must be hard being the main character. Huh? That's too bad. He could have at least poked in to say hello. It's probably because he doesn't have any character art, so he couldn't poke his head in even if he wanted to. Rika-san, that's what we refer to as a personal problem. In any case, that story really was a lot of trouble, especially for Keiichi-kun and Reina-chan. Trouble? That was the mother of all bad ends. I wonder, what was the identity of that thing that attacked Keiichi-kun? My theory is that it was the work of people made to look like a curse. But at the end, Keiichi made that phone call. Yeah, I also thought that call was strange. At that point, Kei-chan should have been certain the crop was for people. That really was a strange phone call. It almost sounded like he was being chased by a ghost or something. Just from that phone call, it really makes me think that it was the work of a curse after all. Since we're all here, why don't we share our theories? Let's start with Sonozaki-san. I absolutely believe it was people. I think it was a man-made incident that was just imitating the strange folklore floating around Hinamizawa. Certainly. Every year on the day of the festival, for another link in the chain of mysterious deaths to happen, certainly is suspicious. That so-called chain of mysterious deaths is definitely something to be trying to reenact the folklore. Definitely. I think it was the curse. Looking at the scene where Kei-chan went berserk in the entryway and that last scene on the phone call, I just couldn't come to the conclusion that a person was a culprit. When you say it that way, it really wasn't the type of scene that would make you think it was the work of an actual person. Yeah, but even then, I still think it was a person who did it. That last scene and the one in the entryway, I think it might have been a delusional episode brought about by post-traumatic stress disorder. I wouldn't know what's going on anymore even if he didn't use such complicated words. In other words, Keiichi was so scared that he was imagining things. Then, what was the meaning behind that scene? What exactly was the mysterious presence behind Keiichi? A red herring. R-E-H-E, oh my gosh, R-E-D-H-E-R-R-I-N-G. Michan, what do you mean by a red herring? Like old man Tomataki-san here said, that scene was the result of Kei-chan having a stress-induced delusion from being mentally cornered. To expand on that a bit further, it was a ploy to make the player think it was a curse. That's why it was a red herring. When you say it like that, but, well, it just means that there's a possibility. In that case, the theory that Oishi-san proposed during the story that it was conspiracy by the villagers was correct? What does the main man himself have to say about that? Me? It makes you think, eh? Huh? I totally thought that Oishi-san would be behind the people explanation. During the story, I said it was definitely the work of people, but if a person really was to blame, that leaves a lot of loose ends. Like what? Let us hear what Detective Oishi-san's theory is. First of all, if the human is the culprit, then there has to be a motive. In other words, somebody has to gain something from it. So what you mean is, if this was the work of people, it would have to be something gained from causing the chain of mysterious deaths? Exactly. I felt that somebody could have benefited from the deaths of people related to the dam development, but the recent victims weren't related to that at all. First off, who benefits from killing Keiichi-kun? I see. If you say it like that, my case is kind of weak too. I mean, none of your money was stolen. There's no way it was human culprits. But that's not everything there is to it, right? Like Michan said, there might have been some sort of reason for them to reenact the folklore. Exactly. This wasn't a murder where you consider the typical motives. It makes me think this was most likely some sort of ritualistic murder to reenact the bloodstained history of the village. So I'll ask the question of the hour. The hell was that noise? Sorry, I heard something in the back of my house. Who gains from this reenactment? It's not about simple benefit. It's more a psychological reason. I think that maybe this was an act of revenge. Something native to that region. Fate was unable to be fooled this time around. I see. A member of some repressed family looking to air out some old grudge that their ancestors? Something like that. I don't like that. Then what is it? It couldn't be that you're leaning towards the curse explanation, Oishi-san. That's right, that's right. The man playing the detective said so. It's decided. It was a curse. If, like how my bar said during the story, it was the case that Oyashiro-sama possessed Rena-san and Sonozaki-san committed those acts. Alright, sorry. Let's keep going. That would fit the evidence the most. As much as I hate to say it. Actually, I'm of the same opinion as Oishi-san. I can't come up with any other explanation for the normally kind Reina and Michan to suddenly start acting strange like that. About that, it may sound strange coming from the person herself, but I think that I, Mion, did it. I don't get what Mi is saying. I'd like an explanation. Oh, sorry. In other words, I think this may end up being a really cruel story. Huh? Wait, Michan. You don't mean... If you follow the trail of evidence to the very end, that's how it would seem. I also have my suspicions. In other words, Rena-san and Sonozaki-san both actually had those personalities to begin with, and were merely deceiving Marbar-san. Am I right? I don't like that at all. This is all the curse's fault. Rena-san and Mion-san, like everybody else, are kind, nice people. I think that too. I think that Rena and Mion-chan are good people at heart. I think that during the story, they were definitely possessed by something. So Rena also thinks it was a curse. Then let me ask everybody who thinks it was a curse. There has to be a reason for a curse, right? I don't think there would be some indiscriminately cursing everybody. Can somebody explain that? A curse is a curse. Human logic won't get us anywhere. Aha, Satoko-chan. A personified deity is, in the end, nothing more than the creation of people. That's why their method of thinking is also understandable to humans. Just take a look at the Greek pantheon. They cry, get angry, get jealous. Basically, they're just like humans. So what you're saying is that Oyashiro-sama is cursing people with some benefit in mind? That's an odd way of putting it, but basically, yes. That's why they say, far from Jupiter, far from his thunder. Aha, you do have a point. Basically, it doesn't matter if it's Oyashiro-sama or humans. There has to be a reason. But Rika, what if that reason isn't clear? I don't know. Ha 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 ha, that's right. This is still just the prologue. There is still a lot of stuff that hasn't been revealed yet. Yeah, it's hard to come up with any more theories at this point. No, I won't be satisfied until this is all made clear. Mion-chan seems rather particular about this as well. Haha, we'll just make the best with what we know. Doesn't this feel interesting? Like the club a little bit? Oh yeah, if you put it that way, it does seem interesting. Well then, let's summarize. I see. I think it was a curse. Tomotaki-kun thinks it was a curse, or thinks it was people, right? Yeah, I'll go with it being people. I also agree with the people explanation. That's not to say I hate such fantastic things like curses, but in this particular case, the connection to a curse is a little weak. 2 for the people explanation then. Rena-san was on the curse side of things, right? Yep. Satoko-chan and I believe it was a curse. Right? Yeah. I think it was a curse. People who say that Rena-san and Mion-san were evil to begin with are more benefiting of a curse. Well, I don't want to believe that my own personality was that twisted, but I have to be cool when I'm in club mode. If I base my choice on emotion, I'll just regret it, you know? Well now, it doesn't really matter which side you pick, does it? Huh? Rika-chan hasn't said anything yet. What do you think? I don't think that Oyashiro-sama is a bad god. Huh? That's an interesting opinion. I don't want to worship some bad god that just curses people. I'd like a generous god more than that one that curses. That's right, Rika-chan is a shrine maiden. Yep, good opinion. Then what? If Rika-chan doesn't believe that it was Oyashiro-sama, then do you think the perpetrators are human after all? We'll just go with that. Well now, that means the votes are split right down the middle. So half of us think it was a curse, and half of us think it was people. Rena-chan, just for reference, what did the test players who played the beta version think? There was a beta players? Yeah. There were a lot more players who believed the people explanation. See, right there. Our veteran comrades are cool, collected, and very observant. But the beta version only finished partway through the story. That's right. Even the people who played the beta might change their minds if they got through to the very end. Well, what should we do then? This means that the opinions are still split. It's no fun if we don't settle this. We need there to be an odd number of judges. In other words, we need one more opinion. Ah, perfect timing then. Why don't we ask Ch.1 himself? Let's call him. The opinion of the victim himself is very valuable. Since that's decided, it's time for the phone. Hello, Ch.1? It's Reina. Are you busy with work right now? Yeah, really busy. Just when I thought I'd get a break because the chapter's over, it's already time for the next one. How's Ch.1? Busy? Yeah, he's moping. I can hear you, you know. It must be nice having a wrap-up party. I wanted to go too. You can come if you get some character art for yourself. Rika, that's a secret. Sorry about that, Ch.1. Anyways, during the current chapter, Ch.1, didn't you die? We were just talking about who the culprit might be. Basically, we're deadlocked on whether it was people or Yashiro-sama's curse that killed you. I'm really sorry, even though you're busy reviewing the script. Ch.1, which do you think it was? That's obvious, isn't it? Which? Isn't it both of them? Targeted by suspicious people from the village and then cursed by some stranger Yashiro-sama on top of that? It's both humans and a curse. Everyone's just picking on me. So very, very pitiful. Next time I'll pat you on the head for you. In the end, the opinions are still split, huh? I'll think this over again. We might have missed something. Well then, please look forward to the next release. Higurashi When They Cry Watanagashi. Alright, clap it up everybody. Clap it up. What a baller peak story. That was freaking awesome, dude. And just like that, that's the end of Chapter 1. Alright. So we'll go back. Guys, I want to thank you all for joining me on this journey. I want to thank those who stuck around and were there consistently. Oh my gosh, we're here consistently throughout the series. I do sincerely hope you enjoyed. I know I enjoyed it. And honestly, I am tempted towards buying the second chapter. But let me know in the comments down below if you made it this far, if you guys would want to see that too. And if so, then I have no problem at all getting the second one and we'll get right into it. But with that being said, until next time, guys.